let's talk about what in the world is happening with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I know that there's this thought out there that the Eagles are going to hell in a handbasket and that the season is lost and that all hope is gone. Okay? I get it. I'm not fully there with you yet. But there was one really disappointing thing that came out of Friday. I don't even want to get into the game itself. We're 3 days removed. Everything has been talked out. Everything there is to say about the actual game itself, I think, has pretty much been touched on. But there's one thing that I really, really just have not been able to shake. And it was a Nick Sirianni quote from after the game. Because Nick Sirianni said something that was so incredibly stupid and so incredibly tone deaf and so incredibly cognitively dissonant, it blew my mind. Nick Sirianni is in a really weird spot. He's led the Eagles to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He led them to a Super Bowl win last year. And it's weird because sometimes you get people that say, well, Sirianni had nothing to do with the Super Bowl win. It was just a very talented team. Howie Roseman did it again. He's incredible, right? Okay. The head coach has something to do with it. It is absolutely insane to say he had nothing to do with 2 Super Bowl appearances and a Super Bowl win. That's just trying to fit a narrative, right? That's crazy. And it's not true. Is Nick Sirianni the sole reason the Eagles have won a Super Bowl? No. Do I think that if the Eagles replaced Nick Sirianni with another very good coach, this team would be perfectly fine, go into the playoffs, and have themselves a hell of a run? I do. But that's not to say that Sirianni's a bum. I don't think he is. I do think that there are some concepts that Sirianni has had for a few years now that we have seen struggles with. And I am starting to wonder how much of the execution and the actual issues themselves fall on the quarterback, who I very much believe in and who has outplayed Patrick Mahomes in 2 Super Bowls. Like, I have a very hard time saying that all of this is Jalen Hurts' fault. And the fact that the offense has looked like dog doo-doo coming out of the bye week the last few weeks, I can't say that it's all on Hurts, but I do think Hurts has something to do with it. There is a part of me that thinks that Hurts is so risk-averse that he is missing opportunities. And we see that he still has a good touch on the deep ball, so I don't think it's that. But it feels like he is just so hesitant to throw into traffic. And he's got enough of an arm to get there. He has the ability to execute. To me, it's just kind of, it's beyond me right now. I don't know what's going on with the Eagles, and it's disappointing. Now, I can't find, I was looking for the audio because it had me pissed off. And I can't, I got it. Here we go. I've got the quote. So after the game, Eagles look absolutely listless. They look absolutely devoid of any life in any meaningful way. Nick Sirianni goes up to the podium and he says, we're going to evaluate everything. We're going to evaluate it all. And then he says one thing, and it's one thing that he says within like 2 seconds that pissed me off to no end. Here's Nick Sirianni after the loss to the Bears on Black Friday. After saying that everything is up for evaluation, he then gets asked directly about the offensive coordinator, the play caller. Here we go.
We're not changing the play caller.
Okay, let's go back to that again.
We're not changing the play caller.
We're not changing the play caller. Okay. Doug Peterson once said they're not changing the play caller. Doug Peterson got fired. I'm not saying that it is a done deal that now that Nick Sirianni went out after a game and said, we're not changing the play caller. I'm not saying that it means that Nick Sirianni is about to fall into the same trap that Doug Peterson did and that within the next year or so, Sirianni is going to be gone. I'm not saying that. I think that that was a very bold proclamation and it was a stupid one to make for a few reasons. One, when you go into that game on Friday, you know that while your job may not be on the line, you know that there's a lot of scrutiny. And I would assume that somebody within the Eagles organization made it pretty clear to Nick Sirianni that this has to get fixed. This has to get better. The offense has to look better. I mean, if nothing else, even if you don't win the game, the offense has to look better. Or we have to have a conversation about your offensive coordinator. This, to me, felt like Sirianni kind of giving the stiff arm to Howie Roseman. maybe giving the stiff arm to Jeffrey Lurie, because you would assume Jeffrey Lurie doesn't want to fully meddle in the coaching staff decisions. And you would hope that to some extent, Howie Roseman, who gave the green light, presumably, to the internal promotion of Kevin Patullo, you would like to imagine he's not trying to meddle in things. However, when you have an offense that is as talented as this Eagles offense is and continues to go out and put up 15, 16, maybe 20 points a game, it's not good enough. And I have to imagine that there was a conversation going into that game. If this doesn't work out, we're going to have a conversation. Sorry, Nick. Might be a tough conversation, but you might have to have it. Sirianni coming out after that game, a woeful performance, and saying, we're not changing the play caller, to me, that was almost like it's almost like a Richard measuring contest. A Richard Cheney measuring contest. What exactly are you trying to get out of it if you're Sirianni? You're trying to fall on the sword for your boy Kevin Patullo. And maybe it's not Kevin Patullo's fault. Maybe it is Jalen Hurts' fault. And maybe Nick Sirianni knows he can't go out and publicly say that it's Jalen Hurts' fault. And so he's now going to fall on the sword for his pal Kevin Patullo. But I'm sorry. I may be an idiot, and I may talk into a microphone, and I may not be the guy who could break down the X's and O's the way that a lot of other people can, that get paid every day to do that. But when you get those intelligent people, and some of those national media pundits that have played in the NFL before, and they say, this offense is too simplistic and predictable, well, that makes me start to question things. Because when they all say the same thing, when they all say route concepts are too simple, when they all say, this looks like an elementary offense, this looks like something you wouldn't even run in high school, this is a pathetically uncreative offense, that makes me think. And then it got worse because after the game, CJGJ, remember CJGJ? Love CJGJ. He went over on to Speakeasy, LaShawn McCoy and Emmanuel Acho's podcast. And he joined them from the locker room. And there was one standout clip that sent me through the roof. We're going to go out and listen to CJGJ. Now remember, I like CJGJ. I have no idea why it seems like the Eagles soured on him twice. I will simply point out that both times CJGJ was on the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. The year that they got rid of him the first time, the entire thing fell apart. I'm not saying it's all falling apart right now. CJGJ ain't here. Emmanuel Acho and LaShawn McCoy had a very interesting question for CJGJ about his former team and about that offense that we've heard is very predictable. And I just want you to pay attention to what CJ. We're going to give Gardner Johnson a lot of credit here. He didn't bury his former team. He respects his former team. Let's go ahead and just have a little listen for a second, because he says two things that I like, and then one thing that makes me want to scream. All right, let's go out. CJGJ, how we doing?
Oh, here we go. Hey, I said, I know you was going crazy after that win. I think he was going crazy. Hey, we should never let him go. I said that. We should never let this.
LaShawn McCoy's right. They shouldn't have let go of CJGJ. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if it's a Vic Fangio thing. I don't know if it's a Nick Sirianni thing. I don't know if it's a Howie Roseman thing. I don't know if it's all of the above. Felt like a mistake to get rid of him the first time. It certainly feels like a mistake to get rid of him the second time. And I know you could say, well, that's his third team in the same season, so obviously there's a... Okay, fine. He's a winner. He wins. But we'll get back to him.
No. You said that. Hey, was you talking shit out there, though?
No, I got too much respect for them to even disrespect the player that I play with, but it's like more so. Okay. We disrespected them on defense, though.
All right, so I like that. He has enough respect for the team. He wasn't talking shit. He's just getting his job done. All right. Here's where it gets really ugly if you're Nick Sirianni, if you're Kevin Patullo.
Hey, go ahead. Was the offense too easy? Predictable? Speak your truth. Speak your truth.
Yeah. For those of you who are listening in the podcast feed and can't see this, we're just going to do a little slow-mo breakdown here. He's asked, was the offense too easy? Big eyes, and then a smile and a wink, which is the nicest way to say, yeah, it's a fucking disaster. Kevin Patullo is an idiot, and Nick Sirianni is empowering him to run a bullshit bland offensive concept week in and week out. He's got a Ferrari in terms of talent on the offense, and he's driving it like it's a Volkswagen Jetta. That might be a nice car. You want to go Toyota Corolla? We'll go Toyota Corolla. Nice car. It's not a Ferrari. CJGJ. Just run it back there a second. Just run it back with the question.
Go ahead. Was the offense too easy? Predictable? Speak your truth. Speak your truth.
A former player from the Philadelphia Eagles, a guy who helped the Eagles make 2 Super Bowls and win 1, who said he won't shit talk the team on the field because he respects his former teammates too much. He gets asked post-game, was the Eagles' offense too easy to predict? He smiles and he winks. That's about as damning as it gets. If you want to sit back and say, hey, Dan Orlovsky doesn't know what he's talking about. If you want to say Ben Solak doesn't know what he's talking about. Brian Baldinger doesn't know what he's talking about. You want to say all that? You have a player who is in your building, 2 separate seasons, 2 trips to the Super Bowl, and when asked, is the offense too easy? He smiles into the camera and winks. That's an indictment of this coaching staff. And while some people want to blame Jalen Hurts and want to say this is all Jalen Hurts' fault, he's missing basic reads. He's flat out just like not executing at a high level. Oh, here's a screenshot of 2 guys looking like they might be coming open. He missed Dallas Goedert. He threw behind a receiver. CJGJ is not winking because Jalen Hurts isn't executing at a high level. He's smiling and winking because it's a fucking joke. So either Kevin Patullo is a dolt, Nick Sirianni is a dolt, or they're both dolts. I would want to believe that your head coach is not a dolt. But this is the second internal hire where when handed the keys to a Ferrari, the offensive coordinator can't seem to get anything going. But when Shane Steichen was here, when Kellen Moore was here, the same head coach was in place. And you can say the same overarching concepts were there. But the Eagles went to 2 Super Bowls. 2 Super Bowls. And looked like a dynamic offense. So what's different? What changed? I could give Kevin Patullo 1 out, other than if it's Sirianni's fault. The offensive line has been dog shit this year. It's been bad. And this offensive line got dog walked by the Bears on Black Friday. I mean, there are multiple instances where if you go back and you watch the film, and again, very smart people did a lot of film breakdown over the weekend. You see Jordan Mailata missing assignments. You see interior linemen missing assignments. You see an offensive line that is overmatched. I continue to wonder aloud, as I did all offseason, why the Eagles didn't pony up a little bit of money for Mekhi Becton. Because the replacements haven't been good. And yeah, Lane Johnson's out. And yeah, I know historically the Eagles have been a bad team when Lane Johnson's out of the lineup. He's one guy. And he's not blocking your quarterback's blind side anymore. I'm sorry, it's not good enough. I saw people want to blame Jeff Stoutland. Is he not coaching these guys up? Well, virtually all of the guys on the offensive line have been in this organization for multiple years. I don't think that the coaching all of a sudden has changed. I think the execution has gotten worse. I think that Cam Jurgens has been hurt a lot of this year. I think Landon Dickerson has been hurt a lot of this year. I don't know what's up with Mailata. He hasn't looked nearly as dominant. You have Fred Johnson in for Lane Johnson. Yes, they're both a Johnson, but they're not the same level of Johnson. Steen, I think, has been awful. So put all these things together, and it is going to cause problems. Here's the one other, the counter to that, though. The run blocking has been bad. We do know that. Saquon Barkley has not had a lot of holes to run at. Tank Bigsby, who looked pretty explosive last week, had 0 touches. Tank Bigsby did not have an opportunity to make a big play against the Bears, which seems crazy. I'd probably put that on the offensive coordinator. The run blocking has not been good. In the pass game, yeah, there are times where the pocket collapses and Jalen Hurts has to throw from the run. But he's also had a lot of opportunities where he's got a pretty clean pocket, 4 or 5 seconds to make a throw and he's not executing. I think this is just bad. I think the entire thing is rotten to the core. And the fact that Nick Sirianni continues to say, we're not going to make a change. We're not making a change at offensive coordinator. We're not making a change at the play caller. I'm sorry, that's not good enough.